welcome to today's Cooking Crave show. Today we are going to bring you a recipe. It is sour cream cinnamon twists. We did have a request from a viewer that wanted to have a cinnamon twist recipe, so I certainly hope this is something that you find as delicious as our family has in the past. So today, here's my mom, Laverne, again, Laverne D, and she is going to show us how to make cinnamon twists. Okay, so how do we start this process today?
Okay, we're going to come over here to the stove, and I got my kettle here. We're going to start with 1 cup sour cream, and we're going to put the burner on medium there. We're just going to put this sour cream in here because we're going to bring this sour cream to a boil, which doesn't take very long at all.
And it's just the sour cream that we're bringing to a boil?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
We're just going to cup of sour cream. This recipe is really easy. One recipe will make about a dozen to 2 dozen cinnamon twists. But if you're going through the work, it's a recipe that is very easily doubled. You can make 2-3 times the recipe. If you're going to the bother, you know, make a little bit more, so it makes your time a little bit more worthwhile.
And being this is a bread or a pastry type, you can double the batch without
messing up your recipe.
Messing up the recipe.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, candy recipes like that, that's a recipe you shouldn't double.
Okay, but anytime you're doing more of a baking item,
cookies,
you can double the recipe.
Yeah, cookies, rolls, anything on that order you can easily double. So just stir that until it comes to a boil.
Now this is a recipe, obviously, a customer or a viewer wanted us to make. So is this something that you have made in the past yourself?
Yes. Yeah, it's a recipe that I've had for quite a few years. It was given to me by a friend, and we've just passed it through the family because it's just a good recipe to make. It doesn't take quite as long as your yeast recipes when you're baking like caramel rolls. Okay. It is a little bit quicker.
Would you be able to use this mixture other than just making like a cinnamon twist thing? Would you be able to use this for like breads or something, or you have specific recipes just for bread?
This here is a little bit different than your basic bread dough, like for caramel rolls or a bread dough that you're going to make. No, I wouldn't use this.
Okay.
Okay, this is ready to, it's come to a boiling point here. So I turn off the burner, and Rhonda, I'm going to have you just go ahead and stir that. And we're going to get our yeast ready. We're going to use 1/4 cup warm water and a tablespoon of yeast, or which equals a package of yeast. I buy my yeast in a bulk, so I just pre-measure, and a tablespoon will be about 1 package. So we just mix that up and we set that aside. That'll just rise a little bit here. And we're going to set that aside. And now our sour cream is boiling. We're going to take that off the burner. And we add 2 tablespoons of shortening. And what I did, this is just Butter Crisco. And you don't have to use Butter Crisco. It's just what I do have in my cupboards right now. So 2 tablespoons of shortening, and then 3 tablespoons of granulated sugar.
Now you're using that butter flavored Crisco. Does that give it a different taste, do you think? Like a little bit more richer taste than if you would just use the regular shortening?
You will get a little bit of a butter taste, which is good.
I would think so.
But your regular Crisco or a shortening is going to do just well also.
Okay.
So we're going to go ahead and just stir this well until the shortening is melted.
Well, that doesn't take very long at all.
No, it doesn't. So even though it probably takes a couple hours from start to finish when you're making this recipe, because you do let the cinnamon twists rise after you have them rolled out.
Okay.
So you can see that we've got that just all stirred up in here, and
So this is a recipe that it's hard, but it is time consuming, so you want to at least devote a morning or an afternoon to making these.
That's right. And like I said too, if you wanted to double the recipe so that you have a few more twists than what you normally would have from one, because you're doing all that work, it's good just to
double it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the sugar and the shortening is in there and it's melted. So what I need to do is add 1/8 teaspoon soda. So when it comes to this kind of stuff, I do measure when it comes to soda and that, and then 1 teaspoon of salt. So we're going to add that
and
to the mixture.
You definitely want to make sure that you're using baking soda and not baking powder, because you can mess up a recipe if you do use the wrong product.
Absolutely. There's a lot of difference between your baking soda and baking powder.
Now, as somebody that doesn't bake a lot, I just follow what's on the recipe and I grab what's in the cupboard. But if you do happen to grab something like baking powder where it does ask for baking soda, is it just not going to bake? What's going to happen to your recipe?
Well, with the baking powder, it will not rise like a cake or bread dough would rise. It actually makes it a little bit heavier and a little bit dough consistency.
Okay.
So that you use your baking powder a lot when you're making a lot of German dough dishes that I use ask for baking powder.
Okay.
And that's when that comes in. And there's even some recipes that ask for baking powder and baking soda together, but you can't substitute one for the other.
Okay.
Our sour cream mixture has cooled enough, so we're going to add 1 egg. And you don't have to beat this egg beforehand, just put it in.
And it's always a good thing when using eggs is to crack them in a dish before you actually put them in your mixture, on the off chance that you get a little eggshell or something. You don't want that in your mixture, or if you actually would get a bad egg.
That's right. You know, you don't get a bad egg very often, but you could ruin your whole recipe here. You'd have to throw all that out. So we're going to put our yeast in there that we dissolved in 1/4 cup lukewarm water, and we're going to just stir this. And when you're dissolving your yeast, you do want lukewarm water. You don't want hot water. Hot water does kill yeast, and then it won't rise. So, and if you just use cold water, it takes too long to rise. So you want to use lukewarm water.
Okay.
Now we're going to add 3 cups flour. Just add 3 cups flour to this mixture here, and just stir that until it's mixed thoroughly. And with making just one recipe here, this 3-quart kettle works very nicely to be able to get it mixed. But when I double or triple the recipe, I will transfer it into a bowl, a little bit bigger bowl, so that I can mix it easier.
Okay, so it's not something that we need to keep in a kettle to add heat back on it to make it warm again. You're going to transfer this right to the preparation stage of rolling it out then?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And it just saves from making another dish dirty. So
I'm all for that, because dishes aren't my favorite thing to do.
As you can see, we're just getting it to where the flour is getting absorbed by the liquid there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to transfer it over onto the cupboard, because we're going to need to knead this.
Okay, before you transfer this to the counter, Laverne, we just want to show the viewers that this is a very sticky dough right now.
Yeah.
It did mix well, but it's not something that is creamy at all right now. It is really almost like a stiff dough.
It is a stiff dough, because we're going to transfer it to the cupboard. I'm going to put a little flour on my cupboard here, because we're going to knead this dough. You need to work it, so we're going to just put that dough right there and just bring it out here.
And how long do you need to knead this dough?
Well, I've always been told the longer you knead your dough, the better it will be. But I would suggest at least 5 to 10 minutes. And see, because of the consistency already, it really handles really nice when we're working the dough. It isn't sticky. It's just a good texture to it. I am about done kneading this now. We've done this for about 5 to 10 minutes, and you can see that the dough is just really nice and easy to work with. So we're going to just go ahead and transfer it into this bowl, and we're going to cover it with a damp cloth. Okay, we're going to check the dough to see how the consistency is, and it feels really good. Enough to make it pliable and easy to roll out. We let it set for about 5 to 10 minutes, and it feels great. So we're going to just set that aside. We're going to be ready to roll it out. We need to get our baking pans, and we're just going to spray them with a cooking oil so that they're ready, and we'll just set those aside. And now we're going to flour our cupboard again a little bit, just so that, you know, it's easier to roll that out.
And this isn't something that rises that you have to punch down at all. It's just you needed to let it set aside to get the right consistency.
Right. It needs to rest a little bit. It does rise a little bit, and then it's easier to roll out. And I'm going to want to roll it a little bit longer than wide, or making it square. And the reason for that is when we fold them over, then we'll have about the right size, because you make them about 3 to 4 inches long.
Okay.
And we're going to roll the dough out, and it's going to be about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick. So I'm using my magic rolling pin here without my handles.
But you know, like you said, you know, before with this rolling pin, you get a little bit, probably more pressure that you could add to the dough, and it probably doesn't take as long as if you had a handled rolling pin.
Well, because that's the only thing I ever use, so I'm comfortable with that, and grew up with that, and it works great. But it's not the conventional rolling pin. So that's about the right thickness that we want for this. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to take some softened butter, and we're going to smear that on top of the dough.
And how much butter do you have here, Laverne?
I had a stick of margarine or butter here. I probably won't use it all. You'll probably use about 1/4 to 1/3 cup of the softened butter.
Okay.
So you take a 1/4 or 1/3 stick and just soften it a little bit, and we've got that.
Just enough to cover the dough.
Right. Now we're going to put some brown sugar on it. I'll just sprinkle the brown sugar. I've got 3/4 cup here. I may not need it all, but you just want enough there. So then you're going to just work that brown sugar into your butter. And nothing works better than your hands. So we just want to spread that evenly over there, all around. And the butter is absorbing the brown sugar, so it will stay in your twists when you're cutting them and you're twisting them. If you like a lot of cinnamon, you know, go for it. And cinnamon is healthy for you, so you can just sprinkle it on. There we go.
So there's no set measuring for the cinnamon, just per taste.
That's right, and you just have it nice and evenly covered.
Okay.
There. So now we're going to fold the dough in half, like this. So just bring it over. And you can stretch the dough to make the ends meet.
Do we need to pinch this together at all to keep it?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We don't need to pinch. So we're going to cut them in about 1-inch strips. And as you can see, this here is one recipe. So once we get these cut here, you'll see the quantity that you're going to get out of one recipe.
Okay. And once you have these cut, is basically you're just going to twist them and put them on the pan, correct?
That's right.
Okay, I can kind of start helping you do that here.
And there's no trick in twisting them. You just twirl it, and that brown sugar pretty much stays in place.
It's not falling out. It's not leaking out. Being that butter absorbed, the brown sugar absorbed the butter.
And I'll have you pick that one up there, and we're going to put that one here, and we'll put the shorter one to the end here.
Okay.
And that's it.
Now, are they ready to bake, or what's the next step?
They need to rise. Now we're going to cover them again with a damp cloth, and we're going to let them rise till it's about double in size.
Is it something that you could put on top like of a warm cooktop and it would rise faster as well, or do you not really want to speed up the process of the raising?
No, that will work fine. You actually could put your oven on and heat up the oven to about 100 degrees, 125, turn the oven off, and then you just set these in the oven, and it's just enough heat. It's just warm. It's not hot at all, because if you get it too hot, you're going to start baking them and then they won't rise.
Okay.
So just in a warm oven, and it will speed it up for, probably take maybe about a half hour that way.
Okay. And just a little bit while this is rising, if somebody wanted to add some like nuts or raisins to this, is that something that you would suggest in this recipe?
It would be easy to, anything that you would like to work with, or if your family likes nuts, absolutely you can put nuts in there. Raisins, you can do that. I would probably chop your raisins, because they're going to be a little bit, they're bigger, and they wouldn't stay in the twist as easily. They could fall out. But whatever your preference is. So,
that's something that our viewers could certainly do if they want to try this recipe. If they're going to double the batch, make plain and make varieties so that you have several different kinds as well to enjoy.
Yeah. It's nice to experiment, and that's the way you come up with different recipes or different ideas when you're cooking. Let's take off the towel, and we're going to check. Now they've just pretty much kind of doubled in size. They're just raised, so they're ready to put in our oven.
Okay.
Which is already preheated. And we'll put them in there.
Now, is this something you're putting two pans in? Do you have to rotate this when you're baking them?
I will, so that they brown on top and bottom equally as well. So we're going to put it takes about 12 to 15 minutes for it to bake. So I'm going to put it on 7 minutes, and then I will rotate it for the rest of the baking time.
Okay, sounds great.
Now that's all we have to do is wait for it to bake. Okay, the buzzer went off and they are ready. And they are nice golden brown, and what we need to do now is take them over, and we're going to put them on a cooling rack. And we do frost them when they are warm, but you want to let them cool just slightly so that you don't burn yourself when you're handling them to frost them. Okay, we're going to make our frosting for the cinnamon twists. We're going to put about 2/3 to 3/4 cup powdered sugar in a bowl, and about half a teaspoon of vanilla. Just pour a little bit in there.
And again, this is the magic measuring kitchen, because obviously we just know exactly how much vanilla to put in. That was a half teaspoon.
Yep, and then we're going to add a tablespoon of milk. And you don't need much liquid for it to get soft easily, so don't overdo it. Tablespoon may not sound like much, but that is all that you need. And already you can see that all the powdered sugar is getting absorbed by the milk, and it's nice and soft there.
It doesn't take long to mix up at all. You don't want to probably do it too fast. You're going to have powdered sugar flying everywhere because it is such a fine consistency.
There, and you just want it nice and smooth, just have a little runny consistency there. And so that's ready to frost. And there's no trick to frosting your cinnamon twists there. You just get a little bit on your knife and bring it right across, and you got them frosted.
And it's a very soft frosting, so that it spreads easy. You're not having to push very hard on the roll, so you're not going to be crushing the rolls at all, and it's going to cool very nicely.
Yeah. And then you're going to leave them on your cooling rack until they're completely cooled, and then the frosting will also dry, that it won't be sticky.
And we all want to thank you again for joining us on Cooking Crave, and I want to thank my mother for hosting with me and using her kitchen and sharing her talents with us. For those viewers that would like to see a recipe, or you want to submit your recipe that we can make for you, please submit that to our website at Consolidated, www.ctctel.com. And again, thank you for joining us on Cooking Crave.